think we don't, especially as mothers, as women, I don't think we give credit to how much what we do matters a lot more, I think, when it comes to health and what we are saying to the people that we live with and that are around. And so I think that's one of the biggest like mental hurdles that I've seen that can be difficult, especially if you're like, okay, you know, it's 2020, this is what we're gonna do, this is what I'm about, like I think everyone's gonna be on board. You know, everyone might not be on board till 2022, and that's often what it's gonna look like. For real, that's what it's actually gonna look like. But there's probably 100 steps from 2020 to 2022 for them to get there, and for your family, for it to be sustainable, and for something that for them to take ownership of.
That's just a sneak peek of what we have today on What in the Wellness with Tiffany. Welcome to What in the Wellness with Tiffany, where we have real conversations dedicated to helping women make holistic wellness easier. Through education, self-exploration, and actionable steps, mixed with a bit of laughs and real-life experience, What in the Wellness with Tiffany is meant to be your companion on your personal wellness journey. I'm your host, Tiffany Stewart, certified health coach, internationally featured wellness writer, business owner, info geek, loud laugher, and mom of two. I'm so happy that you're here with us. Let's get started. Hey everyone, I am so happy to be doing this particular episode. It's like the first of my series of interviews that I'm going to be doing. So it's not just going to be me talking all the time, you know, and I'm okay with that too, but I'm just happy that we're going to get into this whole series of interviews because I am so excited about sharing other women's stories and just knowledge from all sorts of places. So yes, I'm excited. But I hope that you are okay. I am doing well. It is still January, but it's about to go into February right now when I'm recording. But if you're new, I am Tiffany of the What in the Wellness with Tiffany podcast. And I am I'm just all about trying to help women bring wellness into their everyday life in all sorts of forms. And I am really hyped for 2020 because I am trying to make content in different platforms, so that it can be consumed in a way that is easier for women just in general and their lifestyles. Like, I know that podcasts are good for me, but I can only listen to them certain times of the day when the house is quiet or whatever it is, or maybe at night with my headphones on. But other people don't have my life, you know? And so, you know, I am excited to also bring a video version of the interviews that I am planning on sharing. You know, of course, that's always subject to the person. And I'm so happy that today's guest agreed to it. So there will be a visual version for people to experience as well, but I'm still editing that. So look out for that. And that's going to be on my website, which is now available and live. whatinthewellnesswithtiffany.com. It's official. It's really there. And I'm so happy that I've been plugging at it at night, because you know how that hashtag mom life is. So it's actually up. It's just a streamlined, really simple version, but I'm happy with it. And ladies, if you want to do something, just do it. Okay. And so that's what this whole episode is about too, because our guest is Taylor Johnson Gordon, who is a wife, mother, home cook, plant food educator, herbalist, and founder of Sistah of The Yam. So I'm going to tell you more about Taylor in a minute, but we're going to do some administrative stuff right now. Like I mentioned already, the website is now up and running, whatinthewellnesswithtiffany.com. You can also follow me, the podcast first at Wellness with Tiffany on Wellness with Tiffany podcast. Let me get that right, on Instagram. And you can follow me personally on my lifestyle blog at It's Me Lady G. You can find everything linked in the description box of this on the, whatever platform that you listen to this on. And you can also find all the links for everything. Taylor, any of the guests that I may have now or in the future, you can find all their links to everything in the episode page, on the episode page for this particular episode or whatever it is. And all the episodes are now up and numbered. Yes, it was painstaking because if you don't know already, like I said, I'm a business owner of multiple things, but I actually make the websites that you see that I have available for like my blog and my health coaching practice. And I'll make that stuff by myself. Okay. So they may not be the fanciest thing, but they functional and they up and they work in. So yes, everything will be available there if you have any questions, and if the guests will have any, like if it's a product or a service that they're sharing, all the links will be in the particular episode page, along with the description part of in the whatever platform that you may be viewing this on, or not viewing, but listening to this on. The How to Stop Negative Thinking for Good. What I also wanted to share is, if you don't know, like I mentioned already, I am a certified health coach, and I do have my personal offerings as far as online workshops that's available. There's 2 that are now live and available. The first being one to use gratitude as a practice and teach you a gratitude practice to help lower your stress levels. Okay. It is like a whole written breathing and visualization technique that I go and walk you through in the presentation, and that's available, and you can find the links to that also on the website for the podcast, whatinthewellnesswithtiffany.com. And you also can find the other one, which I offer, is workshop as well. So you can find both of those things again on the website, What in the Wellness with Tiffany. I will be interviewing an array of women. So it's going to be like, you can get all sorts of, aspects and life experience and stories and advice and recommendations and suggestions, all that stuff from a lot of different paths of life. So I'm super excited about that. Today, as I mentioned, we have Taylor Johnson Gordon. I had met or came across Taylor on Instagram. Okay. Like I mentioned all the time, and I'll talk about in the podcast itself, is that your relationship with social media is whatever you make it to be. And I was able to cross paths with Taylor, and she is amazing. Like, I've learned so much from her, and we do have similar styles as far as approach with how we share information. And it's just everything that she shared has always resonated with me, and it's in such like a warm and welcoming, presentation, and just the way that she shares and it's just like it radiates. And like I mentioned on her post the other day, because she did when you have new followers or something, you may want to reintroduce yourself. And she did a video version of it. And it's like, oh my goodness, you have like the most, that's what I think all the time, every time I speak to her, and you'll notice it. She has like the most soothing voice. So anyway, lastly, I did make a page that has a couple of my healthy living recommendations and everything that's on the website as well. If you do have, if it's going to be a growing thing, and it's, as I said, as I find things that I may particularly recommend or anything, I'm going to add that to that list, and you can go and check those out on the website, whatinthewellnesswithtiffany.com. I think I've said that probably like 15 times now, but you got to say something a couple of times, a lot of times, in order for somebody to have it stick in their brain. But let's get into the episode itself. I am so happy, like I said, to start interviewing a bunch of different awesome women that are out here making a difference in the world. Taylor Johnson Gordon is, as I mentioned, and I'll read it again, her bio, because I want to make sure I get everything in there, is a wife, mother, home cook, plant food educator, herbalist, and founder of Sistah of The Yam. She has been plant-based for 7 years and is an expert in plant-based meal prep and cooking and integrating herbs in the kitchen and everyday life. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Biology from Point Loma Nazarene University, a Master of Arts in Christian Education from Princeton Theological Seminary, and is in the process of obtaining her Master's of Science in Nutrition and Integrative Health with a concentration in Herbal Medicine from Maryland University School of Integrative Health. She will officially become a certified health coach in prenatal health. She's also working towards becoming a certified nutrition specialist. And in February of 2020, which is right around the corner, through the Dr. Sears Wellness Institute. Before starting Sistah of The Yam, and that's Sistah, Sistah, and currently a partnering practitioner with Inner Circle Midwifery. She was working as an adult nutrition educator with the Food Trust, teaching at churches, food pantries, community centers, and farmers markets. She's also collaborated and taught at a variety of organizations around Philadelphia. I am so excited to share this interview with you, but be sure to check her out, and I hope that you like the interview. So let's get into it. So, hi Taylor, how you doing?
Hi, Tiffany. Good
We're
to
both
see
on the East
you.
Coast, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in Philly. You're in Jersey, right?
Jersey.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
though I've been here for 2 years, you know how it is because you have a young kid.
Jersey's a kind of confused. It's kind of confusing on how it's organized in terms of location. Yeah.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and so it was just like people are asking me, where you going or where you moving to, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, somewhere.
Yeah.
Great. So can you please tell us a little about yourself and your work?
Yeah. So I live in Philly. I'm originally from California though. I'm a Southern California native. Yeah. My dad was in the military, so we were stationed out there for most of my life. But I've been in Philly for about 5 years and been on the East Coast for about 8 years. I'm a wife. I'm married. My husband and I have been married. We'll be married 4 years this fall. And we have one daughter who's almost 2. She'll be 2 in March. And we actually, you don't know this because I haven't really shared it, but we actually have one on the way.
Yay!
As well.
Congrats!
Yeah.
Congrats!
So we're about halfway through. Well,
Really?
exactly halfway through this pregnancy, and we're due in June.
Wow! Congrats! How you feeling?
Thank you. Great. This has been such a everyone says it's a boy.
I was about to say.
My husband thinks it's a boy. My mom thinks it's a boy.
I was about to say.
It's been a very easy pregnancy. It doesn't even really feel like I'm pregnant. I think that's why I kind of forget to share it with people. But anyway, so that's my family.
Yay.
And I am a food educator and an herbalist, and I own a business called Sistah of The Yam. And the mission has kind of shifted over the years, but right now my focus is on working with Black mothers and helping them feed their families well, with real foods, with real plant-based foods and herbal remedies without feeling stressed out and without feeling overwhelmed by it. So I do that. In the past, I've done that with a lot of in-person workshops and working one-on-one with clients. But this year I'm focusing a lot more on working one-on-one with clients, doing more online workshops because I know that's where things are headed. People are always like, well, I'm not in Philly, but can I do something online? And I'm more embracing that. I'm such a in-person type of person because
totally get it.
Yeah, before I was working, before I had my business, I've been doing this type of work with other organizations for years, and I was so used to, the one-on-one, or not necessarily one-on-one, but the in-person to person connection. But I'm slowly embracing that, especially with moms. It can be more convenient. And I, since becoming a mother, have been a recipient of, being able to do online webinars, podcasts, audiobooks, and doing things that allows me to still engage and learn and better myself, but also do all the other duties and tasks that are on my plate.
Yes.
So yeah, I am also a student. So I'm a little more than halfway through my Master of Science in Nutrition and Integrative Health with a focus on herbal medicine. That's an online program at Maryland University
I was about to ask
School.
You
Yeah. Right. No, I'm not driving to class anywhere, fortunately. It's a lot of putting my lectures on speakerphone while, I'm nursing or cooking dinner, things like that, which is great.
Even for myself or for anybody else that may want to know, the different types, the options out there.
It's a really amazing program. Like I said, I'm taking the scenic route because I took a trimester off when my daughter was born, and I'll be taking another trimester off when this child is born. So it's very flexible. It's very real world.
Right.
Like, all of my classmates are a lot of parents, a lot of people that are professionals. And so we all have a lot of different things on our plate. But yeah, it's been a great program. So I'm doing that with the hopes of, after that, becoming a CNS, a certified nutritional specialist, and being able to work more on a clinical side, one-on-one with clients. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I'm doing that. And then I'm also newly just doing a small CHC program with Dr. Sears for pregnancy. Dr. Sears Wellness Institute. Yeah, because I support a lot of pregnant mothers, like on the side. My husband and I, we did a documentary last year.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
I remember seeing that.
On our home birth and that experience. And I wrote, I have an ebook.
Right.
I feel weird saying it's ebook, so it's like 100 pages. So it's like pretty long. But just on like plant-based nutrition and information, herbal information for pregnancy as well.
Oh, great.
I'm
going to put all of that in the available, because I have the website, and by the time this goes up, it's going to have all the links for everything. So everybody can go and check that out. And even when I post the video part on YouTube, then they'll have all the links in that too, to link to everything. Cool. Oh, that's awesome. I'm always like really happy to see moms, specifically moms, moms out here doing other things, and then seeing other moms do things too, because then it makes it more feasible. Like, they can actually feel them or see themselves in this other person's shoes. Like, oh yeah, okay, yes, it's not easy, but it can be done. Right. And so it's really, really important to share people's journey and what it is that they're doing. And that's what I really like or want to do more in this year. And so I'm really happy and grateful for you to share that with us.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm encouraged. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, like when I feel a baby moving, because now it's just like I have so much more on my plate. Being pregnant with another child, as you know, is a very
young
different.
Child.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. So I'm like, I have to use my app to remind me of like, okay, what week? Okay, the baby's the size of a banana. Okay, but yeah, no. But back in terms of like sharing platforms, I think it's always encouraging. And maybe this might be jumping into a question that you might ask later on, but just in terms of especially other Black women. And Black mothers that are doing work within like health and wellness, and us, working together and like collaborating. And it's always encouraging in these spaces, especially because sometimes it can feel like crabs in a barrel type of thing, in terms of like, no, I can't share because, there's not a lot of us type of thing. So I've been encouraged, especially over the past year, in some of the other Black women that I have gotten to meet online, and just the support and not the like standoffishness.
Yes, absolutely. Like I've been to so many like wellness events, like all these blog her and this and that and this and that and the other, and I see, and I'll be like, unfortunately there's more Black women and moms and things that show up. I mean, definitely when I went to Expo East last year, I was the only one that was walking around and asking, where's the room where I can pump? You know what I mean? Like, I was definitely the only person. But so but there's a growing amount of Black women in general in the wellness space, and that's awesome. And I think we are trying to collaborate more, but just actually going and sending that email and being like, okay, let's do this, X, Y, and Z. I think that's what's missing. And so hopefully there'll be more of that in this year. Next question I have for you is, what brought you to this work, and how did you know it was your purpose?
Yeah, I think a lot of times our purpose can come out of a wound or a source of pain. And that is true for me. I am not the type of person that ever set out to do entrepreneurial work. That's not necessarily my personality at all. So it all very much kind of comes as a surprise to me, even as I've like reflected over the past like decade. If we go way back to when I was in college, I was actually pre-med. So my background is in biology. That was my degree in college. And halfway through, I decided to not be pre-med anymore. Mostly because, well, I had spent that summer, I was doing this, it was kind of a feeder program for the UCLA's medical school, and it was geared towards first generation students, first generation college students, first generation, like any sort of pre-med, type of thing. Kids that didn't have doctors and all these people in their family, all Black and brown kids. And that experience was super eye-opening, but it also really, I got to interact with a lot of medical students and really got to see like, wow, like the next, 8 to 10 years of their life really is going to be this.
Yes.
And do I want that for my 20s?
Right.
Do I want that? Do I know that this is the only thing I want to do long term? And I think at that time still there's part of me that wasn't fully on board with the MD model. I think I could say that now as I reflect, but I think there was something that I had some hesitancy about complete like allopathic medicine as I reflect back. So anyway, during that time and all growing up, I always had a very broken relationship with food. I wasn't one. I think sometimes when people say that, especially talking about how they grew up, I wasn't a fat kid. I wasn't a kid that got like made fun of. Not in that type of way. I didn't have that type of. But I was a secretive eater. I was an emotional eater. And I just really did not like my body. I just really did not like what I looked like. I think part of it is I've always had a body. I've always had a shape. I've always been curvy. I remember jumping. It was like jumping from being 10, wearing kids' clothes, to like being 11 or 12, and all of a sudden I'm having to shop in like the women's section, not even the really juniors.
I
kind of like skipped. My mom kind of skipped that section. All of a sudden, I had a booty and I had hips and everything. And also growing up, I am a Christian to this day, but growing up in a Christian home and just environment where I think my shift in my body, I think it really scared, and I understand as a parent now, I can understand, but I think it really scared my dad, my parents. And so I just grew up with this notion of like, no one ever said my body was bad, but it's something that I should be careful about, if that makes sense. Terms of, and so they wanted to protect me from all the creepy, men that are everywhere in the church and everywhere. But it also added fuel to the fire of like, okay, I already don't really like my body. And now it's like, now it's something that's like, I have to be careful about it. I can't do certain things. I can't wear certain things. And not really being able to grasp at that age, like, why is that? And not really no one ever really unpacked it for me that like, it's not me. It's also these, it's grown people's choices and their own like perversion. But that added fuel to the fire in terms of my body. I also grew up in a way that my faith there wasn't a connection between my faith and, my actions in terms of how I treated myself.
Mm.
There was a connection between my faith and like I was taught like what to do and not to do to other people, but not in terms of like myself. I wasn't really taught that like something as simple that isn't really as simple, but a simple statement like that God cares about how you treat your body. God cares about your health. Those things like that was never communicated to me. So most of my adolescence was, you know, my mom would find like Snicker bar wrappers and stuff underneath my, you know, bed frame. Even just processing different things that were going on in my family. Whether it's like parents fighting or different things like that. Different things just triggered like me, you know, going, you know, after school, after high school, going to, you know, McDonald's and getting, you know, some spicy, those spicy McChicken sandwiches.
Yes.
A few of those from a dollar menu. Also going up and down with like having some summers where I was like, okay, I'm gonna like diet, you know, do South Beach or something, and you know, things that weren't healthy, right? But I just really didn't like even what I looked like even I remember even being in the dress, growing up, you know, trying on clothes and being in the dressing room and not even wanting to like look at myself like naked. I would like close my eyes or turn around while I was like undressing and then put whatever I was trying on and then wait to like look in the mirror. It was just a lot of shame, sense of unworthiness, all those types of things. So my whole relationship with food was pretty poor, and pretty either poor on the side of like eating whatever I wanted, and even to the point of like not feeling good.
Right.
And then feeling shame and guilt from that to the like dieting, super restriction type of thing. And always eating in secret, always like binge eating in secret, because it was something that I had a lot of shame about. Anyway, fast forward to the reason I know about New Jersey is because I lived there for 2 years. Because I went to seminary.
Okay.
And lived in Princeton. It was at that time that I started to hear newer ideas around God's relationship to me as a person, as a woman, as a Black woman, and realizing that, yes, even those things that at the time seemed small in terms of what I eat, what I put into my body as a temple, all those things matter. And so around that time, I started just learning, you know, watching all the food documentaries and like reading those books and everything, and felt just called and led into not eating meat. And I think a lot of times when we talk about like plant-based eating in Black communities, a lot of it can be focused on like weight loss.
Yes.
Which is interesting to me because that just isn't at all my story.
Right.
I didn't transition at all. Even though I didn't like my body, it was really more about building a relationship to where I could respect and love myself and love my body. It wasn't at all. Now that I reflect about it now, and I think that's why it's been sustainable, why it's been, it'll be almost 8 years that I've been plant-based, because it was never this quick fix thing. It was always me transitioning into this new lifestyle, this new way of looking at myself, looking at the purpose of food, having a relationship with food where I still could enjoy it, but for me to really be thinking about like, how am I taking care of myself, and in return, like, how can that be a way to honor God? How do I honor God? By the way that I eat and put in my body, and how that's also connected to other people, right? In terms of the environment and animals, all these types of things. So it was just, came out of a personal journey when I was in seminary. The last class that I had to take one more class to graduate, and I randomly picked an elective, you know, to just fill it. So I was ready to graduate.
Been there.
And the class happened to be like a theology class, but focused on entrepreneurship. Like I
Wow.
said, it was a new class. It was a really innovative professor.
Yeah.
And I took it just to graduate. I did not know really what entrepreneurship was.
Right.
But anyway, we had to come up with a project, do a whole business plan, pitch an idea. And my project at the time, it was the very first iteration of Sistah of The Yam. It isn't what it was,
Wow.
what it is now,
Yeah.
but it was the very first seed that was planted. That was back in 2014.
Wow.
And then since then, it's just really like evolved and taken shape. But yeah, it came out of a womb.
That's awesome, because even that last, so many things of what you said, but the last part, even about, I think what keeps people from starting is that they think automatically that it's gonna be birthed and be perfect, your idea of whatever it is that you want to do. And it's like, no, it's going to start out this way and evolve to be whatever it will be. And you have to just kind of move with it, as opposed to thinking, like, don't allow that fear of it not being whatever you think it should be, stop you from starting in the first place.
No, I'm kind of like moving backwards now and being like, okay, now I like going backwards and being like, okay, now really doing like business training, now really understanding marketing, all those types of things, because that's not ever how I started. I never was like, I'm going to make a business.
Right.
And this is how I'm going to generate revenue.
Absolutely.
And these are, no, that's not how it came. So now I'm backtracking and having to catch up and learn the business side.
I completely understand.
To all of that. So
I completely understand.
Which is like a whole other thing. Yeah.
That's a whole, that's sometimes I'm like, why did I decide that I want to make this serious? Because now this means there's all these other things I have to do.
Yeah, I asked myself that too.
Wow. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah.
Because I know that so many women will resonate with a bunch of different parts of it, even just, your personal struggles and it being birthed out of a womb. Because it's the same thing with me. I mean, I started going down even in the time in which I like launched my YouTube channel initially. And then from that, anybody that's really have gone from then to now, they're like, it's been through all sorts of things, right? Completely thing. And so, and even in then, what really put it on this trajectory of wellness is that I had a personal like hormonal breakdown. And so I completely understand with all of that. And then even what you're saying of trying to keep your relationship with food, I think that it's more sustainable because you have that mindset of, this is what I'm doing to honor my body. Like even when I go and God, and even just the whole global thinking of it, because even that's the same thing with me. Even though when I somehow will fall back into eating, not even fall back. And I try not to sound bougie with people. I try to sound bougie when I say like, oh, I'll eat crap. And then they'll be like, Tiffany, you ate fries. You know what I mean? And so like, you know what I mean? And so, but I'll go there, but then I'll always have in the back now, like my default is reset of like, I know what this could be doing to my body when I'm eating it. Yeah. So I'm not going to eat this on a regular thing. Yeah. Exactly.
You have a why, which I think a lot of people don't.
Right.
I'm very grateful that I transitioned really before it was as big on social media and on YouTube. So I really didn't have, the only YouTube channel I could really watch at the time was Food Heaven. I was rocking with Food Heaven Made Easy, like back when they were like
nice. They're super nice.
At the very beginning of their YouTube channel, I was like, okay, this is how I make a smoothie. I'm in my dorm. I'm in my dorm in a seminary, like trying to make my smoothies tasted awful at the time. I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
But I'm grateful now that I had an established why that's carried me.
Right.
And I see a lot of people, they don't have the why. It's more of a fat, it's a social pressure. It's this fat thing. It can be glamorized. It can have all these promises, like your life is going to be perfect.
Right.
If you become vegan,
Right. Exactly.
you're everything in your life is gonna all of a sudden line up. All these like outrageous claims that it's like, well, if you don't have a why, then you can fall in all these different fads.
That's even
and traps.
it's very important. The why with any sort of change. I think I did another episode on that, but just explaining why, coming to your why is like it, whether it be whatever it is, health, it be because of your kids. Like I've decided this year, I'm like, I'm gonna finally learn how to swim better. And my why are my kids.
You know what? I need to, because I can't.
Exactly. Right.
And now that I'm a mom, it's like, that's
exactly
not safe.
It's not safe.
I need to be able to. Yeah.
That's exactly my why. That's exactly my why.
I'm right there with you.
Cool. So, basically, my intention and purpose behind this podcast and other content is to help demystify aspects of wellness and taking care of women's own well-being on an everyday basis through knowledge, grace, and empathy. Right? That's really what I've been thinking sometimes. And I feel truly, or at least it comes across as such, that you have similar approach and beliefs, and to some degree. And why was it important for you to pick the approach that you have? You can correct me or not, but why was it important for you to pick that?
Yeah. I just realized it's very, well, I realized that it's very difficult for adults to change. And just from a like educational standpoint, having an adult who has been in a routine and a pattern make a change, a significant life change, that has to be done incrementally.
Right.
And so what I try to promote, whether I'm working with a client or when I've taught workshops, is making smaller, manageable, doable steps.
Right.
Not going into your kitchen and throwing away all your food. That doesn't really make any sense. But what are smaller, like more manageable steps that you can get to where you want to go? And I recognize that my audience is very wide. There's women that are more, have made a lot, have already gone through the years of making a lot of changes, and more are just fine-tuning things. There's women that are like at the very, very beginning steps.
Right.
And so I oscillate between, sharing things that are more at the other end of the spectrum, that are more specific and more nitty-gritty ingredients that you may have never heard of, stuff like that.
Right.
And then focus on like, okay, well, here's the basics of like, here's a very simple way to include this into your life.
Right.
And so I know too, like I think empathy is an important thing, because I know that I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a lifelong student. There's things that I used to promote that I hadn't, that now I know I had an incorrect understanding of, and I can no longer like give the same advice.
Right.
And we're constantly growing. And I don't think in any aspects of health, of motherhood or whatever, especially as mothers that are women of color, that are Black women, I don't think there's any aspect that, I don't think perfection is something that's attainable, but how can we always be, building resilience? How can we always be, like Maya Angelou saying, when you know better, you do better.
Yes. Yep.
Type of thing. And I don't really, I can't make a judgment on someone for something that they don't know. But once you like know it pretty well, then it's like you have the responsibility to do something with it. And so that's where I have shifted in my voice a little bit, and have been more adamant in the like, okay, by now, if you've been rocking with me for now, by now there's certain things that you do know, so that you can't, there's some people that will always make excuses,
right?
And so it's important to like recognize that, but then there's important to also recognize that some things people really don't know, and I hope that the people that gravitate, whether it is to, my Instagram, or that want to work, want to be able to be challenged and want to be coached along the way and like cared for along the way to, you know, a better lifestyle, and know that things are going to be broken up into a sustainable steps. And so I'm all about like sustainability, which is why I like the model, I think, now more of one-on-one coaching and working with someone over several months versus just one-off workshops are great. But it's very, if you go to a lot, especially there's people that are kind of workshop junkies.
Yes,
webinar
absolutely.
junkies. And if you're constantly taking in all this information, especially from people that have very different philosophies, very different ways of viewing food and health and all these things can be really, really confusing.
Yes.
Right. And then it can be hard to know, like, well, what actionable step can I do? So I think I always, at the end of the day, just always want women to know that, like, okay, this is the action item that I can take, and not feeling like left in the dark of like, now I don't know what to do with what that information, you know? So yeah, it's like a difficult thing because there's some, I'll be honest, I've been met with a lot of times people can have a lot of excuses about like changing, and I think that's just that's like part and parcel to adults and working with adults. And then it can be hard to know, like, well, what actionable step can I do? So I think I always, at the end of the day, just always want women to know that, like, okay, this is the action item that I can take, and not feeling like left in the dark of like, now I don't know what to do with what that information, you know? So yeah, it's like a difficult thing because there's some, I'll be honest, I've been met with a lot of times people can have a lot of excuses about like changing, and I think that's just that's like part and parcel to adults and working with adults. But I have been more encouraged by, you know, the people that have like a teachable spirit and that have the commitment, because you don't really have to know everything if you're committed. You know, that's going to go way further than you knowing certain information, than you knowing what the difference between organic and non-GMO, all these things. Knowing doesn't really mean anything. It's your level of commitment and it's your application. So,
well, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that I call it, like, I try to lately, well, not all the time, but this idea of posting with purpose, you know, so that people what is the takeaway that they can take from it, if anything at all? I mean, yes, sometimes a nice picture is a nice picture.
No, but you do a really good job about always having a small, like, actionable, like, step that someone can take away. Can take away, because some people, they do all that their wellness account is all just like pretty pictures, and there's nothing really that's like so what can people actually do with this information? So you do a good job.
I try like to tote the line with things, because I know that that there's different things, but I try to tote the line. But I know it's hard sometimes, like going back, kind of what you're saying, there's so many people that find us at different parts of their
entry
life
points,
and you know, and so it's hard to kind of judge, and that's why I started thinking about expanding past Instagram, because that's just like this small snapshot of what it is that you might be doing at this time, or like, and then this person, people just scroll through Instagram too fast sometimes. And if they really want to like do or have some sort of change that's sustainable, you would have to like read through a bunch of posts, you know what I mean? And so sometimes, and some people want to do that or not, but having like a different,
a lot of people ask the same questions over and over, and you're like, okay, well, if you just scroll like 3 posts ago,
exactly,
you know, you'll be able to find,
And so having these other things outside, like I started realizing the benefit of having a podcast, so somebody can actually listen, you know, they can listen past and have like an actual experience as opposed to just seeing a picture. I
Yeah.
hope that
Because
makes
I think
sense.
what's difficult too is a lot of people use social media for entertainment. So if you're
Yes.
already in that mode, there's some people, you know, for me, I use it more for business. I don't follow a lot of people. I'm very specific about who I'm following. It's not really an entertaining space for me.
Right.
But if you just saw something from, you know, TMZ and then scroll to like your page, it can be, you know, people aren't always really digesting it because they literally just saw something salacious from another account right before they read yours.
That's why I always ask or speak to people sometimes, and I'd be like, you know that your relationship with social media is what you make of it.
Yeah,
like literally the algorithm, the way it works, it will show you more of what it is that you like. Exactly, what you're engaged in. And so I'll say to people, like I've said to family members, like, what does your feed look like? Because I know what mine look like. I'm okay with mine, you know? So if this is your takeaway of what social media could be to you, it's completely different than what it could be to me. But that's only because I only engage with certain things. And so I hope that I say that a lot. I hope people y'all know that y'all social media is what you make what you make of it.
And if you're spending a lot of time, you know, you can learn. There's so many things that you can really get from social media now, if those are the accounts that you follow, you're engaging in.
Right. When doing your work, what is one hurdle or hang up you often see women have when incorporating healthier changes? You kind of mentioned and how do you help them work through it?
Yeah, I think one thing is the why, not having the like clear established why. I think another thing too, I kind of touched on this a little bit last week, but just feeling the burden of their family on their shoulders.
Yes.
And the burden of, you know, feeling like, okay, well, my husband's not there yet. My kids are definitely not, you know, there or ready for these types of changes. But I'm at this place where I'm ready and I'm there, you know. And so how do you navigate that? I think that's a big challenge, especially for mothers, especially if you're not aligned with, you know, a spouse or a partner, if there is one, especially if you're not aligned with, you know, a spouse or a partner, if there is one. Because in order for it to be really sustainable, there has to be some sort of support system. I don't think it always has to be your partner or spouse, but it's very convenient if that person, you know, makes it a lot much easier if the person that you're living with and sharing some finances with and things like that, like, is somewhat on board. They don't have to understand every single thing. My husband is not, you know, he doesn't understand every single thing about herbs or food. He knows a lot more than the average person just because he's with me. But I don't need him to understand every single thing. He gets it. He's like, okay, if you say this is what, then I'm gonna always look for that ingredient. I'm gonna let you know. He doesn't need to be super knowledgeable, but he's super open. But I think that's a big hurdle, and I think, especially as women, when we approach things where we can sometimes be controlling and want everyone to be on the same level or page when we are on it. But knowing that at the end of the day, how we are living for ourselves, you know, how we are nourishing ourselves, how we are taking care of ourselves, that's going to speak way more. That's going to have way more of an impact than harping on something that your spouse is doing or harping on your kids for not eating, you know, something that you put front of them. Just how we are living out our lives. And it can be very imperfect, but how we are living that out in terms of what we're eating, resting, being active. It's so crazy to see my daughter now, like when I'm like she can do a good, you know, 3 or 4 sequences of some of my Pilates with me because she's seen it enough. I've never sat down and be like, okay, Eve, this is Pilates. This is I've never, but she sees me doing it in the living room. And she knows how to do those certain stretches. It's all this passive just watching, even for my own
Right.
family.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the first couple of years I kind of thought, okay, this is cute. Taylor's,
Mm-hmm.
she's not eating meat and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's cute. Let's see where this goes. But when they've seen, like, okay, several years down the road, there's things that my mom does now. There's things that
Right.
my dad does that I never really communicated to them.
Right.
I had no idea they were listening
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
watching different
Mm-hmm.
things, even
Mm-hmm.
things that my brothers have picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And so how we live our lives, I think we don't, especially as mothers, as women, I don't think we give credit to how much what we do matters a lot more, I think, when it comes to health,
Yes.
than what we are saying to the people that we live with and
Right.
that are around. And so I think that's one of the biggest, like, mental hurdles that I've seen that can be difficult, especially if you're like, okay, it's 2020. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm about. Like, I think everyone's going to be on board. Everyone might not be on board till 2022.
Right.
And that's often, what it's going to look like.
Yes.
For real. That's what it's actually going to look like. But there's probably 100 steps
right
from 2020 to 2022 for them to get there, and for your family, for it to be sustainable, and for something that for them to take ownership of.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it is. Everyone comes to their path or knows the path or sees their path at their own time. And you can't rush anyone.
You can't rush it.
You can't rush them.
It can also build a lot of resentment.
Yes.
Too. It can also, I think, especially for kids, it's so sensitive to how we talk about food.
Yes.
And so they need to see you enjoying it and see the benefits of it.
That's so funny you said that.
It's going to be it's going to be more natural that way.
It's so funny you said that. I did an interview with on a friend of mine's podcast, and he asked me, he doesn't have kids, and he asked me, what is it that I can tell other parents to help them get their kids eating better? What is one simple tip? We did a couple simple tips, but the thing I really said to him that I wanted to stress was that you have to be very aware of your reaction and your emotion and the way that you're coming across with this new transition. Like, you can't be like, you don't like the broccoli, right? You know what I mean? Like, you can't say things that have some sort of negative connotation to it, and you're trying to get them to have this change, but you have to believe it yourself first. Yeah. And your energy is going to convey onto everything that you're doing.
And
so you have to
kids
check
pick
yourself
up on that.
Yes.
Kids pick up on that. Even young,
they absolutely do.
Kids our age, like our daughter's age, they pick up on that. They pick
your
up
facial
on
expression, your energy, everything, the way that you're approaching it. Like, if you are committed to this change, you have to check yourself and your energy first before you start trying to help other people into it, because they're not going to believe it. That's how I really feel. Yeah. It's funny that I had you scheduled because literally today I got a message from someone asking about particular herbs, and a couple of people actually, herbs or things that I might have tried, because that's what I get. Most of my questions are like, have you tried this? Have you tried that?
Really?
Have you tried this? Yeah,
you do a lot of products. You do a lot of
right. Or
true.
even like a lot of them would be like branded products, but some of them would be like, have you tried? Someone asked me today, have you tried valerian? Or have you tried rhodiola? Ashwagandha, rodeo. I'm like my mouth, right? Rodeo. Yeah. Have you tried this? So it wouldn't be specifically even like an actual brand. It'll be like, have you tried maca? And I'll be like, yeah, I have a whole video on it, right? Like, and I'll send them the whole video. I'm really about helping women lower their stress levels, and you touched on it over the last couple of days. You were talking about ostra, but I wanted to say, what are some herbs that you would recommend women researching? And someone asked me, you see how I threw that in there. Like, and specifically someone asked me,
takes for
exactly. Do your own research, ladies. And someone asked me about valerian specifically. So there you go.
I think for the first the first part to your question is
Mm-hmm.
how I approach herbs is that herbs aren't in isolation from the rest of your lifestyle. Herbs are, I think, especially because we're so accustomed to pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a headache, let me take some ibuprofen or Tylenol, right?
Right.
So we can bring that same kind of Western pharmaceutical approach to
Mm-hmm.
herbs.
Mm-hmm.
But herbs are living beings. They're
Right.
plants that are very complex.
Mm-hmm.
And they support, a lot of times they are supporting different body systems and different organ systems
Mm-hmm.
simultaneously. Some of those effects we don't even necessarily know of because
Mm-hmm.
plants are so magical and intricate.
Mm-hmm.
So to approach them with that sense of like respect,
Right.
it's important to know that they can't fix something if other aspects of your lifestyle are out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
So this is especially true when it comes to stress.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many other lifestyle factors that are important even before you think about introducing herbs. So herbs can
Mm-hmm.
support, but they
Mm-hmm.
can't support anything if there's not any other foundational changes.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things is sleep. That is,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's not like a fun response.
Mm-hmm.
a
No,
lot
no,
of people
no.
don't a lot of people don't want to hear that because they want to tell me, okay,
What's the
what's
one
an
quick
herb
thing?
that's going to
Yes.
make me sleep?
Mm-hmm. Right.
There are herbs that I can help you that can help support you
Mm-hmm.
in getting in a relaxed state to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
or can support you in staying asleep,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to make the choice that like that is something you're going to prioritize.
Right.
And especially, especially for hormones, for
Mm-hmm.
women, we can't
Mm-hmm.
play around with sleep.
Right.
Women's bodies are very different than men's.
Absolutely.
Women, especially if you just had, you're in the childbearing like years, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, our body is always very sensitive to, okay, can we ovulate? Can we make a
Mm-hmm.
baby? Like, is this
Mm-hmm.
going to happen? Are we going to
Mm-hmm.
do this thing? And
Right.
sleep is one of those really big determining factors that really, really affects our hormones, really, really affects our mood,
Mm-hmm.
and can help support us when we are stressed, or can
Mm-hmm.
make stress even worse.
Right.
So that's one of the first things, is to have the priority that like, okay, sleep is going to be a priority. Restful sleep is going to be a priority, not me falling asleep over my, phone. So some herbs
Right.
that can help support with sleep are, some of my favorites are lemon balm. Lemon balm goes into the blood pretty quickly. So taking lemon balm, I know that a lot of people like quicker things like
Mm-hmm.
tinctures or glycerites, but it's nice to even have a bedtime routine as much as you can. I know I say that loosely because
Mm-hmm.
I don't really, to be honest right now, my bedtime routine is very, very minimal. Like,
Yeah, I get
splash of
it.
water, put some shea butter on my face, like make sure I put my bonnet on.
And I don't even do that sometimes.
Take
I'll
my
be like, I wake up in the
candles,
morning.
like, yeah, I don't have this 1 hour, when I
Yeah.
say bedtime routine, I don't mean that, but I do have a time frame of when I am going to sleep.
Right.
And so, an hour or so, well, that's the first thing, stop eating a
Mm-hmm.
couple hours before you go to sleep.
Right.
Stop the screen. If you have to do a screen, because I have to do a screen at night sometimes because I'm a student.
Right.
Wearing the blue light
The
blocking
blue.
glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you can stop altogether an hour before, and an hour before bed, drinking some lemon balm tea. You can also drink some passion flower. So
I
passion
love
flower,
passion flower.
yeah, passion flower is a really great herb for. I know a lot of times when we're falling asleep, we can be like, our mind is racing and we can be cycling. And a lot of times we can't fall asleep because you're constantly thinking about what happened that day,
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do tomorrow, all the stresses and things that you're worrying about in the future. So passion flower can really help us just slow our mind down and give us really restful sleep without making us feel like hungover the next day. Because sometimes if you sleep too deeply and then you wake up and you're still really tired.
Yes.
So passion flower is a great herb for that. I talked about oat straw in terms of being really great for stress, especially for moms, especially for moms that are pregnant or are recently postpartum, because it's so rich in calcium, it's so rich in B vitamins. It's good at calming stress, but it's also just really nutritive and more like really builds you up and gives you that sustenance and resiliency.
And my question for the herbs that you mentioned is there anything that like lactating moms, obviously lactating moms, but that we should know if they're breastfeeding?
No, those are all fine.
Okay, so I know my research showed me that it was, but
yeah, those are all fine for breastfeeding.
Yeah, because I personally like I took passion flower even last night. Like everything was crazy lately, and it's just like my brain. You're right. It helps me to just slow all my thoughts down. With valerian, I'm gonna make sure I'm hitting that one. What should we know, if anything, about it?
Yeah, valerian is kind of in the same camp as passion flower, but I don't recommend for breastfeeding.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to, if you could explain the difference between, because you mentioned a tincture and the glycerite. You mentioned, yeah. Can you different ways that people incorporate herbs into like the different the mediums? Is that the word? Okay.
Yeah. That's a really great question. So the most important thing about like using herbs in your daily life is to really think about your lifestyle. And it doesn't really do anyone good to like go out and buy an herb in a way and form that you're not going to use it.
Right.
So like for my husband, he isn't really going to brew some tea.
Right.
But he will take something as a dropper in the form of a glycerite or a tincture, because that just works for him and that helps build consistency. So that's one thing to consider. The different ways that you can take herbs. Tincture is something that is alcohol based. So there are different properties within an herb that sometimes alcohol can pull out those properties more. Sometimes water can pull out those properties more. Sometimes oils can pull out those properties more. Sometimes glycerin can pull out those properties more. So it really depends. But in general, alcohol is a much stronger extract of the medicinal properties, because when you make a tincture at home, which anyone can do, you're really letting the plant sit in alcohol for pretty much a month. Right. So it's really breaking down the plant particles and really pulling out the medicine. And that's a lot stronger than if you brew a tea, right? So that's a tincture. A glycerite is non-alcoholic, which is great for, if you have a sensitivity to alcohol, whether it's religious reasons, sobriety, you want nothing to do with alcohol. If you have a medical condition and can't have anything that has any alcohol, the amount of alcohol in a tincture is very minimal. It's similar to the amount of alcohol in a very, very ripe fruit.
And just for clarity, you're not, I know you're not, I'm making sure people understand that you're not talking about rubbing alcohol or anything like that.
No. I'm talking about an alcohol that you can actually ingest.
Right.
So usually like, has a stronger proof. So like vodka or something.
Right.
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then a glycerite is glycerin based, which people may be familiar with, like from skin products.
Right.
So it has glycerin in it. But this is this glycerin that you can ingest internally. Right. And it has a naturally like sweet taste. So those are great for kids if you're pregnant or if you're lactating. Teas, people know about tea. But herbal teas, medicinal teas, are usually infused for much longer than just steeping it for 15 minutes. So if you make like an herbal infusion, you can infuse that, overnight or for 4 hours or a couple hours. And that's really the most affordable way to start using herbs, because all you need is the herb and water. Water isn't very expensive, right? There's also oils. So herbal oils are for topical use. If you think of salves or something for your hair or for your face or for external wounds. Then there's all these other things. There's herbal vinegars. There's herbal honeys.
That's right.
Yeah, there's tons of, you can mash up an herb, pound it up in, with the pestle, mortar pestle, with a little bit of water. And you could put that on, if you have a bruise or if you have some swelling, that's called a poultice, wrap it around with some cloth. There's so many things and ways, but those are like the main ways.
Awesome. I personally, if there were two other things that I would like to add on to my knowledge base and get like certified or go to school for, would be a herbalist. I would love to do that. That's like
here. Well, so there's not an official certification for an herbalist in the United States. So if you see someone in the US that's like they're a certified herbalist, well, that's not really a thing.
Okay.
Sometimes people say that for clout. There's professional organizations that you become a member of, like the American Herbalist Guild. It's a very respected organization, and you have to do a certain amount of hours of contact work to be a part of that. But the beautiful thing about being an herbalist is that there's so many different types of herbalists. There's some herbalists that are more like community-based and do more folk medicine. There's clinical herbalists that meet one-on-one, that have a very more scientific approach to how they're prescribing. So I think, if you are using herbs, and it's a lifelong thing that you're learning, not being nervous about taking on that title if you're really into and committed to like learning it. Because there's things that you can study. There's more professional classes that you can do at schools. Like my program, I'm doing a concentration in it. But then I also, in the fall, I'll be offering it again. I offered an 8-hour course on cold season remedies. And I'm not an accredited like school or anything, but offering educational offerings and programs, especially for Black women, to like reclaim this aspect of themselves. So
I want to get into, what are you working on right now? I know that you have a course that is coming up.
So I have in 2 weeks, February 8th, I'll be doing an online 1-hour workshop on how to grocery shop for healthy foods with confidence. And I picked that title because it's 2020. There's so many different ingredients and labels. Buying food can be very confusing. Buying quote unquote healthy food can be very confusing. So these are a lot of my tips and tricks for how to do this in a very straightforward way. I don't really believe in spending at any given store. This doesn't include like being in the checkout line. That can take a while. But you shouldn't really need to spend more than an hour like shopping for your groceries if you really know what you're doing ahead of time. You shouldn't be waiting until you're in the grocery store to try to figure out, am I going to buy this product or this product? So the workshop is designed for moms who feel really stressed, who feel really overwhelmed with shopping, who want to have healthier foods for their family. That's what it'll be covering. And it'll also be covering how to like, especially because I know not everyone, but a lot more people are hopping on the plant-based train. How to know how to do that and buying real foods, and how to not get stuck in the fad of like buying a lot of the trendy or more like what I call vegan junk foods that are okay to dabble in, to have, to eat once in a while, but shouldn't be like a staple, and also tend to be really, really expensive and highly processed. So how to decipher that. So the workshop is 1 hour. Everyone that, registers gets a live or gets the recording of it as well. And you can go to my website to register for that. But I'm really excited about offering that because I get a lot of questions all the time. And it shouldn't be, I just don't believe there's so many other things in our life that's going to cause us stress. And grocery shopping shouldn't be one.
Shouldn't be one of them.
There are so many
Right. It's a process.
It's an art, and once you learn how to do it, and learn how to do it for your family, and learn how to do it in a way where you're not throwing away food every week.
Yes.
That's a big thing.
That's a big thing.
It shouldn't be stressful. And so that's what that workshop is covering. I also am launching a new, I haven't really announced it publicly yet, but I am launching it's a 3-month coaching program called Real Food for Real Motherhood. And so it's for moms that want to go from eating out a lot to cooking, 80% of their meals at home. And it's through like a unique approach that I've walked other women with before. And the first month is really, since you talked about stress, the first month is really nourishing the mom and really dealing with her stressors and using like different practices, including food and herbs, to deal with that. The second month is really focused on like getting organized, doing a lot of kind of like an audit. The third month is actually implementing and following some of my approaches around meal planning, which doesn't include spending all weekend cooking. I don't really think that's sustainable. Some people enjoy doing that, but there's so many other ways to meal prep and meal plan that can happen incrementally. So so I'm really excited about that program.
So the class that you're doing on February 8th, in case people listen to this later, will it be available for purchase and streaming then, like late past the 8th?
Yes, likely it will be. So they'll be, I'll put like where it is now, the placeholder that it is now on my website. I'll either put how they can purchase it for the future, or I'm going to decide after this one if I'll offer it again later in the year. Yeah.
Okay. Where can we find out more information about you other than with the links that I'll include with everything? But you can tell everybody now so they can.
So everything is Sistah of The Yam. I'm mainly on Instagram. Sistah of The Yam. SISTAH. TAH. And I'm on Facebook too, but I mostly interact on Instagram. And then my website is sistahoftheyam.com. And then I'm always open to interacting over email too. At taylor@sistahoftheyam.com. That's especially great too if you aren't sure, because I understand that it can take a lot mentally to invest in yourself, in terms of investing in a coaching program, investing in someone supporting you in that way. So I'm always open to answering questions and talking about what it's like to work with me like beforehand. And so hopping on a call and doing that. So yeah, you can just email me at taylor@sistahoftheyam.com.
Yay! Well, those are all the questions I had for you, Taylor.
Great, Tiffany. Thank you so much.
Yes, this was fun.
Yeah,
I think
this was fun. So my Resilient Remedies course, for those that are in Philly, I'll be offering that again in October, but this year I'll also have an online version. So you could take the course virtually. And for those in your audience that are in Philly, I'll also have 2 in-person things planned for March. March 19th, I'll be doing like healing in the 4th trimester, like plant-based foods for postpartum. I'll be teaching at another venue for that called Kith and Kin. And you can find this information on my events calendar. And then on the 28th, I'll be speaking there's an organization called Mama's Mark. And they have like a self-care day for moms. I'll be talking all about stress. We'll be getting we'll be doing some hands-on stuff with herbs, like making cake stuff to take home. So those will be, I have an events page as well on my website. So if people are in Philly or not too far away, those are other in-person opportunities.
I'm excited about not being so far from Philly. And so like I mentioned in September, I hope we'll meet up And,
yeah,
that would be awesome. Thank you so much for listening to the episode. I hope that it brought you all the things that it needed to bring you, because I always feel that whatever we share, it crawls its way through the air and it helps and gets to whoever it needs to get to and hugs all the places that it needs to hug. So I hope that it did that for you, because I know it did for me. If you did like the episode and do like the podcast, please be sure to give it a rating on whatever platform that you're on and hit the subscribe button, because that does help and we do appreciate it. If you do want to support the podcast, you can go and find that. I have a Patreon page that can be accessed on the website, What in the Wellness with Tiffany. And I would truly appreciate it, because it does help with the production and everything of all the different media that I hope to put out. So thank you so much for your time, and I will speak to you next time.